Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Got another great video for you guys today. As usual, you guys know the deal on this channel, man. We must continue to set the record straight. Stop the lies. Stop the narratives, y'all. Stop them from rewriting the history. And in this video, man, we're going to do a continuation from what I was talking about yesterday as it relates to Paul Pierce and his comments about the European players are soft, guys from France are soft, and just the softness of the NBA overall. But in this video, we're going to specifically focus on what Paul Pierce said, and I'm going to ask him a question. Can he tell me any of the tough American players in the NBA? Anyone, because anyone know any of the tough guys from America that are in the NBA today? We're going to talk about that because the tough guys in today's NBA are not tough guys. Once again, they're fake tough guys, man. They're not real tough guys. So we're going to focus on the American, quote-unquote, tough guys, and as it relates to the European players being soft, guys. And I want to thank everyone out there, man, everyone across the world, everyone across the states, man. Shout out to all you guys, man, for real. The true basketball fans have been supporting my channel. You guys subscribing, liking my videos, sharing your comments, sharing your stories with me, sharing the info with me, guys. It means a lot. Once again, I am truly humbled by all support, guys. For real, man. Thank you to all you guys out there, man. Shout out to everybody in the membership. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, man. Shout out to my man, Angry Old Hoops, man. I saw a video that he did this morning. And it was talking about the same thing that I was telling you guys about yesterday, the Paul Pierce and him calling the European players soft. Now, the reason why I want to do a follow-up video to what I talked about yesterday is because when I was listening to my man Angry Old Hoops video, he always has the audio, he always has the footage and stuff, man, and he was playing the audio of the actual words and what Paul Pierce was alluding to and what he was saying as it relates to the European players and them being soft as it relates to the American players in today's NBA. And if you guys remember, in my video yesterday, I told you guys that Paul Pierce is speaking from an old school mentality, right? Us old heads, right? When Paul Pierce first came in the league in the early 2000s, yes, the Americans were still considered tough. The Europeans were considered softer than the Americans. Not necessarily that they're soft overall, or like I said, their country is soft, or these players from certain areas are soft, right? And that's not the case. But what we're saying is that as it related to the Americans, the Europeans were always considered to be softer than us. We were always known as tough people, as tough guys. We were tough. We had heart. We had grit. You know what I'm saying? Those are the facts, guys. And that's what Paul Pierce, I believe, was alluding to. But where he started to lose people is when he tried to relate it to this era of NBA. He wasn't talking about the past NBA. He's talking about this era of NBA and how the European players in this NBA are soft. And he says that as if the Americans are not soft. And once again, guys, this is where we get exposed as Americans. And I asked Paul Pierce this question. Can he name me the tough American-born players in today's NBA? Who are the quote-unquote tough guys in this era, in this NBA, from America? Since the Europeans are soft, who are the tough guys? Who are the tough Americans? There are none, guys. Let's think about this. And I wrote some of these names down just to make sure I got this straight. But these are the players that are considered to be the tough guys of this era, the American players, guys. Who do we have? Draymond Green. Draymond Green is considered a tough guy in this era. Think about how that sounds, guys. Draymond Green is one of the softest, fakest dudes I've ever seen in my life. Draymond Green is that guy. If you guys know the person I'm about to talk about, in high school, when a fight was about to break out and the crowd started to form up, Draymond Green's that guy's going to be behind everybody talking about hold me back, don't hold me back. That's Draymond Green. He's one of those guys. So Paul Pierce claims that the French people are soft. People from France are soft, okay? And once again, he's speaking on a historical perspective. He's not speaking about the current NBA. Like I said, this is where he sounds like an idiot. If he wants to talk historically, then absolutely, I agree. The Americans were always perceived as tougher than the French players. Absolutely, we were always viewed as tougher. If you just think about historical context and perspective, France has never won a major war, have they? No. It's been the Americans that had to come to the aid of some of these other countries. That's neither here nor there. It's a complete another story, another video for another day. But when Paul Pierce alludes to the French players being weak or soft, then why does Draymond Green have to go and choke Rudy Gobert from behind? If Rudy Gobert is a soft person, right? I'm not calling him soft, but if they're saying that the French people are soft, so let's say Rudy Gobert is soft, then why would Draymond Green need to sneak up from behind him, right? And do a cheap shot? That's a cheap move, a cheap shot from a Draymond Green to put this guy in a headlock from behind. Once again, Draymond Green exposes himself. He exposes us, the Americans, as looking like a bunch of cowards and a bunch of clowns. This is Draymond Green, but he's the tough guy in this era, right? And we've talked about this on this channel, guys. In any other era, Draymond Green's either not going to be in the NBA or he's going to be a bench player at best. At best. He's not going to be an enforcer. Could you imagine Draymond Green winning a Defensive Player of the Year award in the 80s or the 90s? It's laughable, guys, for you to believe, or anyone to believe, that Draymond Green is that great of a defensive player. He's that tough of a guy. I told you, in the 90s, the man's not sniffing the court. He's not a starter in the 90s. He's nowhere near the defensive stalwart that he is in this era. Draymond Green win Defensive Player of the Year award over guys like Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Gary Payton, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning. It's laughable, guys. Like I said, it's a joke when people try to make it seem like this guy's a tough guy. Even Draymond Green himself believes he's a tough guy. Draymond Green himself has said he's the greatest defensive player in NBA's history. He's not even close to that. See what I'm saying? These guys are so delusional. It's not like Draymond Green's a top 5 or a top 10 defensive player of the year, defensive player in NBA's history. To me, he's nowhere close to that. But he'll say he's the greatest defensive player in NBA's history. Draymond Green winning a Defensive Player of the Year award over a Dennis Rodman? Stop, guys. It's a joke, man. But Draymond Green's a tough guy in this era. So, right there off the bat, Draymond Green, American-born, he's the tough guy? He's tough? No. Who else is a tough guy that's American-born in this era of NBA? Dillon Brooks, guys. Dillon Brooks, LeBron James' arch nemesis. Think about how that sounds, guys. For LeBron James' arch nemesis to be Dillon Brooks and Draymond Green. These are the arch rivals of LeBron James. These are the guys who get under LeBron James' skin. And we all know that Draymond Green's on the payroll now, right? It was all fake, all that show he's put on. But let's think about Dillon Brooks. He's supposed to be, once again, the enforcer, a tough guy of this era. And once again, Paul Pierce, I ask you, where are the tough American players at? Dillon Brooks, are these guys tough guys? No, they're not tough guys. Not tough at all. How many times has Dillon Brooks played 82 games in a season? One time, guys. He's played 82 games in a season. One time, but he's supposed to be a tough guy, can't even suit up every night. Come on, man. Once again, exposed. How many times has Draymond Green played 82 games in a season? Does anybody know? One time in his career, guys. One time this man suited up for 82 games in a season. But these are supposed to be the tough guys of this era? Paul Pierce is saying the Europeans are soft? No, the Americans are soft. We're a bunch of soft clowns, soft feminine dudes, man. Who else is a tough guy of this era? Or known as being a tough defensive guy or a tough guy in general? Marcus Smart? Is he considered a tough guy of this era, the American-born, quote-unquote, tough guy in this era? Marcus Smart, who won a Defensive Player of the Year award in this era. Once again, Marcus Smart, no knock on him, man. He's a solid player. But once again, in the 90s, Marcus Smart's not sniffing a Defensive Player of the Year award, guys. He's not sniffing an all-defensive team. He's not even sniffing the court in the 90s. Marcus Smart. And once again, there's no knock on this guy, man. He gives the effort, but he's also a high flopper, a high-volume flopper, Marcus Smart. But he's one of the elite defensive guards of his era. Once again, Marcus Smart's nowhere near a Defensive Player of the Year award over guys like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Gary Payton, John Stockton. I mean, my goodness, guys. Once again, it's laughable for anyone to believe that these guys are tough now, but the European guys are soft. Once again, Paul Pierce exposed himself as, once again, not giving you the historical perspective or the context here. He's just talking nonsense, right? This current era of NBA, the Americans are soft. We're the soft ones, guys. We're the fools. We're the guys wearing dresses to games, carrying purses, straight feminine stuff, man. That was never the American way when I was growing up. Who else is a tough guy of this era? Patrick Beverley? Is Pat Beverley a tough guy? And I'm not knocking Pat Beverley, man. He gives the effort. He hustles on the defensive end. He's a scrappy player, no doubt about it. But once again, Patrick Beverley in the 80s and the 90s, he's not going to be one of the elite defensive guys. He's not going to be a tough guy in those eras. How many times has Patrick Beverley played 82 games in a season? Does anybody know? He never did. Never one time in his career has Patrick Beverley, the tough guy, the scrappy guy, ever played 82 games in a season. But these are supposed to be the tough guys of this era? Exposed, man. Once again, exposed. This era is soft, man. These guys are frauds, man. Once again, the historical context perspective, it exposes these guys. You're soft Americans. Or who else is known as being a quote-unquote tough guy or having some grit or anything like that? Jimmy Butler. Think about Jimmy Butler, another guy who's known for being one of those guys, a primetime performer, known for being tough, having some grit. Jimmy Butler, the guy who has his hair straightened out, looking all feminine in his pictures. This Jimmy Butler, that Jimmy Butler, he's a tough guy. The guy who was selling coffee in the bubble. He was selling coffee, man. Like, the dude opened up a Starbucks in the bubble. We're supposed to be worried about Jimmy Butler. He's a real tough guy. Not buying it once again. Jimmy Butler, how many times has he played 82 games in a season? I believe one time in his career that he's played 82 games in a season. So, if we think about those guys, those players I just named, these are supposed to be the tough guys of this era. So right there, Paul Pierce looks like a straight fool. Now let's think about some of the quote-unquote tough guys of the 80s or the 90s, and more so the 90s. Let's think about some of these guys. We all know about Charles Oakley, right? Charles Oakley played 82 games 6 times in his career. Let's think about P.J. Brown. P.J. Brown, known for being a tough guy, an enforcer, right? Playing with the heart and the grit, the toughness of a P.J. Brown, who played over 80 games, 8 times his career, I believe. He played 80 or more games in his career, 8 different times. Kurt Thomas, who never gets mentioned. Kurt Thomas, man, another guy who was known as being an enforcer, guy known for having heart and grit and being a tough guy. Kurt Thomas, I believe, played 80 or more games, 4 separate occasions. Anthony Mason, right? We all know about Anthony Mason, played 82 games 4 different times. Xavier McDaniel, who's known for choking out his own teammates, right? Xavier McDaniel, who they said choked out a rookie Gary Payne in the locker room for talking reckless to him. This Xavier McDaniel, the same guy that Michael Jordan went nose to nose with, right, on those New York Knicks teams, right? This Xavier McDaniel, man, a true enforcer, man, a true tough guy. You know what I'm saying? He played 82 games 6 times in his career, guys. Xavier McDaniel. Otis Thorpe, another guy who had a lot of heart, a lot of grit, a lot of toughness, a legit tough guy. Otis Thorpe played 82 games, 9 separate occasions. We think about guys like Kevin Willis, who played 80 or more games, like 9 separate times, right? These guys had a lot of heart and grit. Now, why do I bring up the 82 games once again? This is very important, guys. See, the 82 games has gone, right? It's been falling down to the wayside. People have underestimated the value or underrated the value of playing 82 games. What that really means as far as your toughness, your overall heart and grit. Because for the players that I read off, who are supposed to be the tough guys of this era, the Draymond Greens, the Dylan Brooks, Jimmy Butler, and Marcus Smart, these kinds of guys, the Patrick Beverleys, all those guys combined, guys, I wrote this down. They played 82 games 3 times. All those guys combined played 82 games 3 times. The guys that I mentioned before, just on the top of my head, let's see it, 10, 16. I mean, we're talking about over 30 times that they played 82 or more games, guys. From the guys that I read off from the 90s to the guys that we just read off from this weak soft era of the 2010s into the 2020s. So, once again, what does that expose? That these guys are not tough. Because when we're talking about toughness, I think people get confused. They think that we're talking about your ability to fight, your ability to throw the hands, your ability to take a punch. These guys are not boxers. This is not MMA. When we're talking about toughness, we're talking about your ability to lace it up, suit up for 82 games, right? Consecutively, consistently for your career. Pushing through injuries, pushing through pain, personal problems. All of those things exhibit toughness, heart, grit. What do you see a lot of now? You see a lot of the NBA players now today, right? They'll be out for a game, and what's the reason listed? There's no reason. Or it's some soreness, or some lame excuse. Where back in the day, when guys missed games, it was a legit injury. They were coming back from an injury where they had a rehab. Now, everything, a jammed toe, a sprained finger, these guys are out for games, right? They just need rest, a sore ankle, a sore knee, whatever the case may be. Soreness will keep these guys out today. That's not showing me any toughness. So, when Paul Pierce talks about toughness, right? Now, let's think about the superstar players. Because to me, there are no tough American players in the NBA. Once again, I want Paul Pierce to name these guys. Why did he not name any of the tough Americans in the NBA today? You know why he didn't do it, ladies and gentlemen? Because there are no tough American guys like that in today's NBA when we were compared to the European guys, when we compare to the overall NBA in general. The overall feel of the NBA is soft. And why is that? Because of the Americans. The Americans are the ones flopping around at a high level. And I told you, when I grew up watching the NBA, it was the European players that were flopping around. They were the ones that brought the soccer mentality to basketball. That's what they did back in them days. The Americans were not doing these things. But now, let's think about it, guys, and I wrote this down here. Let's think about some of the great players of this era, guys. LeBron James. Is he a flopper? Absolutely. LeBron James, one of the biggest floppers in the NBA. right? LeBron James flopping at a high level. We have the video, guys, right? All over the court, this man's flopping. He's load managing all over the court, but he's supposed to be the greatest player of his era. So think about how that sounds and how that looks for the outsiders looking in. When you're supposed to be the greatest player of your era, you're supposed to be the face of the NBA, but yet you load manage every chance you get. You duck the smoke, so to speak. And once again, LeBron James, what? Flopping around the court. A flopper, a true flopper, LeBron James. We have the video, guys. It's not hate on LeBron James. These are the facts. So LeBron James looks pretty damn soft to me, even though he likes to flex on people. Looks pretty damn soft. All that fake flex that these guys do. That's why they look corny. They look stupid. Because he'll flex on dunk after dunk on a 6'3" guy, but then set the next game with a sore ankle. But they want us to believe these guys are tough. Let's think about James Harden. Is James Harden a tough guy? No way, man. James Harden is soft. James Harden is a feminine dude, man. No masculine energy coming off of James Harden, man. None. You seen the outfits James Harden wears, the way that he carries himself with no class, no integrity, no honor. No real grown man's gonna respect James Harden. The guy's a fool. He's a straight fool. Not only to mention he's a playoff choker, right? He's just not that guy. Dude ain't never gonna play 82 games. How many times has James Harden played 82 games in his career? You guys know? 2 times in his career. He's played 82 games. How many times LeBron James played 82 games in his career? 1 time, even though he spends all this money on his body, even though they keep telling you how great of an athlete LeBron James is, the shape he keeps his body in, played 82 games 1 time. That shows me you're not tough. You're not that tough. James Harden, once again, 2 times played 82 games in his career. Not impressing me at all. Once again, James Harden is soft. Who else is soft in the NBA? Let's think about Ben Simmons. Is Ben Simmons a tough guy in the NBA? He's American. Oh, excuse me, he's not American. He's Australian, I believe. But is he a tough guy in the NBA? No, he's not. And he's supposed to be the stars that I'm trying to highlight, you guys. He's supposed to be the star players that are soft and weak. Ben Simmons never played 82 games in a career, in a season. Damian Lillard. Is Damian Lillard viewed as a tough guy? Does anyone think Damian Lillard is tough? Who's tougher, Damian Lillard or John Stockton? Who's tougher, Damian Lillard or Gary Payton? Damian Lillard or Terry Porter, Damian Lillard or Kevin Johnson? I mean, it's a joke, man. Damian Lillard is one of the great point guards of his era. Once again, the man would not be that dude in the 80s or the 90s, and he's not that tough to me. I believe he's played 82 games on 3 separate occasions in his career. Once again, Damian Lillard ain't giving no effort on the defensive end. He ain't got no true leadership. Got no grit, man. Once again, Damian Lillard has a lot to prove in his career, man. This is a Devin Booker. Is Devin Booker a tough guy? How many times Devin Booker played 82 games in a season? 0 times, man, Devin Booker. Devin Booker's a Kardashian. He's one of these new TikTok guys that happens to play basketball. He's a social media influencer that happens to play basketball. That's what a Devin Booker reminds me of, guys. Once again, a very soft, feminine, emotional clown. No respect for Devin Booker, man, and his soft, sensitive game. Zion Williamson, man. All right, I try to like Zion Williamson, man, but once again, he's soft too. He's never played 82 games in his career. I doubt he'll ever play 82 games in a season for his career. And a lot of people are okay with that because Zion Williamson is sensitive. His body is frail. The man's always hurt. I believe he's out now with an injured finger. His finger's hurt, and he's missing games because of an injured finger. But the European players are soft, Paul Pierce are telling us? Makes no sense, guys. So how about we think about some of the great players from the 90s that I grew up watching and how many times they played 82 games in a season. Gary Payton, 9 times played 82 games. Michael Jordan, 9 times played 82 games. John Stockton, 16 times played 82 games. Reggie Miller, 5 times played 82 games, and another 5 times he played 81 games in a season. Reggie Miller, the skinny, frail Reggie Miller, was still able to play 82 games more in a physical era than LeBron James, than Steph Curry, than James Harden, than Damian Lillard, than Devin Booker, than Zion Williamson, all these guys. Reggie Miller, who they want to tell you is a skinny, frail dude, played 82 games 5 different times, 81 games another 5 times. These are the heart and the toughness of a Reggie Miller, of the guys that I grew up watching. These are grown men. Dennis Rodman played 82 games 5 different times in his career. David Robinson played 4 different times 82 games in his career. Karl Malone, 10 separate times played 82 games. Scottie Pippen, 5 different times. And the funny thing with Scottie Pippen, guys, is that to me, when we think about Scottie Pippen, what do we often say about Scottie Pippen? That he was mentally weak. He had to develop his mental toughness and his heart and grit from a Michael Jordan, from Michael Jordan's leadership, the big brother mentality of Michael Jordan. But when we think about Scottie Pippen, his weakness was always his mental. He was weak and mentally soft. Scottie Pippen in today's NBA, he would be one of the tough guys in this era of NBA. Right? He would be one of the tough guys in this era. This how soft the NBA is. It's not the European players that are soft, like Paul Pierce wants you to believe. That may have been the case in the 90s, in the early 2000s, when Paul Pierce was at his peak. Yes, that may have been true. But when you're talking about this era of NBA over the last like 10 years, I want to say since the 2014, 15, somewhere around this season, we're talking about 10 years now, the NBA has gotten soft, but it's the Americans who have gotten soft, not the Europeans. The Americans, we have gotten softer. Now we're the ones that people laugh at. We're the floppers. All the rules that the NBA is making, the changes for the flopping, this is due to the American players. LeBron James is flopping at a high level. James Harden won an MVP award from flopping. Literally from flopping, guys. James Harden was awarded an MVP, right? So when we think about these kinds of things, it exposes this idea that the European players are soft today compared to the American players of today. Because once again, I asked Paul Pierce, can you name me any of the tough American players in today's NBA and compare them to the quote-unquote tough guys of past eras? The guys who are supposed to be tough, and I read these guys off, the Draymond Greens, the Marcus Smarts, the Dylan Brooks, the Jimmy Butlers, these guys who are supposed to be tough guys, they're not tough guys. They're fake tough guys. I've told you that. They are fake tough guys, man. They don't got no true heart, no grit. These guys can't even show up to work every game. Right? To me, that shows how tough you are. When you can lace them up, you can suit up for 82 games consistently, 80 games, 79 games, right? Now, these guys are barely playing 60 games, barely. And now they're being forced to play. So, once again, this exposes this era of NBA and all the Americans that play in this era of NBA. Because, once again, when I was growing up watching the game, guys, these guys did not need restrictions. They did not need flopping guidelines or a minimum game requirement. They didn't need any of this stuff. These guys showed to work because they had the grit. They had the toughness. They didn't sit out with soreness. If they missed games, it was a legit injury. They were legit hurt. That's how you knew they were out. If they were out, that you knew it. Now, when you see guys out now, it just says they're out. Oh, so-and-so's missing a game. So-and-so's out. But there's nothing wrong with them. Literally nothing wrong. So once again, like I said, guys, I just wanted to do a follow-up to what we talked about the other day, man. Paul Pierce calling the French players, the European players soft. Meanwhile, in today's NBA, once again, trying to bend reality, these guys, and rewrite the history here, the players back in the day, the Americans were known as being tougher than the European players. What's going on now is now the Americans are known for being softer than the European players. That's what we're known for, guys. Those are just the facts, guys. You know the deal, man. Once again, I'll catch you guys on the next one.